Okay, imagine this. You're a student, maybe in a brand new city, and you're facing all these challenges that nobody else can even see. Now, what happens when you throw a powerful, totally unregulated new technology into that mix? Well, today, we're going to dig into that invisible crisis and a really surprising solution that's being built to fight it, something called a digital guardian. So, to really get this, we have to start with the human side of the story. For a lot of students, especially if they're studying far from home, university life is so much more than just classes and exams. It's a journey through this complex web of pressures that nobody really sees, from feeling lonely and stressed about housing to the very real danger of getting scammed. And all of this, it adds up to what some people are starting to call an invisible crisis. And it's not just about grades. We're talking about the heavy weight of feeling like you don't belong, that cultural dislocation, plus all the practical stress, right? Finding a decent place to live, getting a part-time job. And on top of all of that, they become these prime targets for all sorts of nasty scams, rental scams, job scams, you name it. The real danger here is that these problems, they tend to stay buried. Students might not know who they can trust, or maybe they're worried about their privacy. So you can see what happens, right? By the time anyone even knows there's a problem, it's already blown up into a full-blown crisis. And right at that moment, trying to figure out the official support systems can feel totally overwhelming. Now, let's throw a huge new wrench into this whole thing. A recent study found that a staggering 57% of people are using unapproved, unofficial AI tools for work and for school. Just let that sink in for a second. More than half. This isn't just some small trend, folks. It's a massive, hidden layer of risk getting slapped right on top of an already tricky situation. And this is where we get right to the heart of the digital threat, this concept called shadow AI. It's that point where the amazing convenience of new tech crashes head-on into the responsibility to keep people safe. And the result? It's this giant unregulated mess of risk, both for the students using these tools and honestly for the institutions that are supposed to have their backs. So what is shadow AI exactly? Well, to put it simply, it's using any AI tool, a chatbot, a homework helper, whatever, without any official stamp of approval or security check from your school or your workplace. It's pretty much the digital Wild West, operating completely in the shadows, away from any of the safe official systems. And this is where it gets really, really serious. Students might accidentally paste sensitive personal info right into a public AI. Or what happens if they get dangerously wrong advice on something critical, like their visa status or a personal health issue? And the scariest part? All of this is happening out there, on some random company's server with absolutely no safety guardrails. None. And here is the critical takeaway for any institution. You can't just blame the technology. Responsibility doesn't work that way. And look, we're already seeing this play out in the real world with legal consequences. In one famous case, an airline had to pay up because its own chatbot gave a customer the wrong info. The message is crystal clear. If an AI tied to you gives bad advice, you're on the hook for the money, the reputation, all of it. So, okay, we've got this massive problem. And you can't just ban these tools, right? That's just not realistic. So how do you fight back against the risk? Well, you don't fight it, you replace it. You build a better, safer alternative. You build a true digital guardian. And this slide really nails the huge difference in approach. On one side, you've got these risky, open-ended AIs that'll try to act like a counselor or a lawyer. Sometimes it just makes stuff up, but with total confidence. And then on the other side, you have this purpose-built, safe navigator. Its job isn't to be the expert. Its only job is to understand the problem, do a quick sorting process, what they call triage, and connect you to a real, verified human who can actually help. All right, so how does one of these digital guardians actually work in practice? Let's kind of peek under the hood and see how this digital safety loop is actually put together, because it's designed from the ground up to protect students. So this whole solution is built on three main pillars. First up, you've got the Safety Navigator. That's the AI part that only does that triage, that sorting. Second is the Safety Hub. Think of it like a library of trusted information and super practical what to do if playbooks. And finally, there's the Scam Guard. And this is exactly what it sounds like, a tool built to help students spot those red flags and know what to do if they think they're being targeted. Now, the AI agent itself, it runs on one simple, non-negotiable rule: safety first, always. So its first job, its only job, really, is to figure out if there's any immediate danger. If it detects a serious issue, it doesn't try to be a hero and solve it. It escalates to a human immediately. Only after it's sure things are safe does it move on to connecting the student with official services or other kinds of support. But here's the thing, and it's a really important thing. A tool like this, it's completely useless if nobody trusts it enough to actually use it. So how in the world do you build something that students will actually turn to when they're in a tough spot? Well, the secret, and this is the really cool part, it isn't actually in the tech, it's in how you build it. The whole process, it has to start with what's called a human-centered design philosophy. And that just means that before anyone writes a single line of code, the very first step is to get out there and discover the real lived experiences of students. You've got to define what the real problems are, not just what you think they are. And only then can you start developing a solution that actually, solves them. And probably the most important part of this whole thing is co-design. This means you're not building a tool for students, you're building it with them. They're involved every single step of the way, sharing their stories, testing out early versions, giving feedback, and shaping the final thing. See, that's how you build real trust and create something that's actually going to work in the real world. So, when you put this all together, what we're really talking about is so much more than just a new app. This represents a huge shift in how institutions think about their responsibility, their duty of care, in this new digital age. And this, right here, is the key insight. It's about moving away from policies that just sit on a shelf in a handbook somewhere and moving toward building proactive, hands-on, digital safeguards. So instead of just wagging a finger and saying, hey, don't use that risky AI, you're giving them a sanctioned, safer, and honestly, a better alternative. It's all about closing that gap between cool technology and our fundamental responsibility to look out for each other. And that really leaves us with one last big question. AI is not going away. In fact, it's becoming woven into the very fabric of our lives. So the real challenge ahead of us isn't if we're going to use it, but how. How will we choose to build it, to protect, to support, and to care for one another?